Thank you so much. I didn't know that I would be speaking after Whoopi Goldberg. I would not have come. And thank you for inviting me to this very, very special gathering. Your job, or better say, your vocation, is fundraising. Congratulations. You live in the most generous country in the world. I cannot add anything to the wealth of knowledge, information, and experience that you may have shared already in this conference. I'm here only to tell you tales of passion, the passion and joy of giving and service. Once, my daughter-in-law, Lori, and I attended a conference at the Omega Institute in upstate New York, where we heard Dr. Christiane Northrup talk about pleasure and joy. She said that we live in a culture of stress. We think that suffering buys us respect. It's embarrassing to admit that one is joyful. It means that one is not paying attention. One has no understanding or empathy for the state of the world. However, joy and pleasure are essential in nature. Without the pleasure of color and fragrance of flowers, for example, the bees would not pollinate. Without the pleasure of sex, none of us would be here tonight. The only reason to do something so silly as intercourse is that it feels really nice. Joy is the force that moves nature. According to Dr. Northrup, we can bring pleasure to our lives in innumerable ways. For example, dancing. Pole dancing is even better. Yeah, women have most of their passion and their healing and nurturing energy in here. There is where men want to be. So move it, ladies. Be joyful, live passionately, eat, drink, make love, get a pet, gossip with your girlfriends. Northrup also recommends self-cultivation. My English is limited, so I turned to my daughter-in-law. What does it mean, Lori? I'll explain later, she said. Tell me now, or I will miss the rest. Later, Isabel. Now, Lori. Masturbation, she said. And it came out so loud that the audience applauded. Well, it's not a bad idea, actually, because over 60, you never get enough pleasure unless you take care of it. That's my experience. Pole dancing is not the only way to cultivate joy. In my long life, I have learned that service and generosity also do the job. Helping others lifts the heart. It makes a lot of sense, and you get to meet much nicer people than pole dancing. My therapist thinks that I have a very low self-esteem, so he gave me a very weird task. I had to ask 10 people to write down 5 good things about me. For anybody with low self-esteem, that was almost an impossible task, so I finessed it a little. I wrote 50 neutral adjectives in 10 pieces of paper and handed them to him. I suppose he compared the handwriting, and well, he sent me off again to do my homework. It took me months to find 10 volunteers, but eventually I got the answers. The best were from my grandchildren. They said that I was cool. I scratched their backs, and I was short but smart. The big surprise was that everybody, including my grandchildren, included that I was generous. My therapist warned me that my generosity could be a way to buy other people's love. So what? If I can't get it for free, I will gladly pay. In any case, I decided to find out what generosity means. According to the Oxford Dictionary, It is readiness or liberality in giving, but the Oxford Dictionary is limited. Father Alberto Hurtado, a Chilean, no-nonsense Jesuit saint, defines generosity as the act of giving until it hurts. For sure, that is not my case. I would never give away my makeup or my dogs. Here is an example of true generosity. I have a foundation run beautifully by my daughter-in-law, Lori Barra. Our mission is the empowerment of women and girls. The mission is too ambitious for our foundation's size, but Lori and I are not discouraged at the enormity of the task and the scarcity of our resources, because we know that modest contributions can make a big difference for people in need or in distress. The foundation is financed by the income of my books and my speaking engagements. We don't fundraise, but often we receive unsolicited donations. Our most loyal donor is Adais Marves. She read my memoir, Paula, and when she found out that I had a foundation, she sent $100 with a kind note explaining that she wanted to help other women. At the time, she worked as a nanny. The following month, we received another donation from Adais, and then another. And at the end of the year, we got a check for $500 that was her entire bonus. Since then, Adais Marves has prospered. Now she runs a child care center. We often get pictures and drawings from the kids. Adais still gives without fail every month. She says that she trusts us to use her money for a good cause. Over the years, she has given $12,500, mostly in $100 increments. By matching it, we have been able to establish a scholarship, the Adais Marves Scholarship for Latina Women. Adais I think in the United States you pronounce it Adais or some stupid name like that. It's Adais, that's the name. Has changed the lives of several women with her generosity. She gives until it hurts, as the Chilean saint demanded, and she fits perfectly Khalil Gibran's definition. Generosity is giving more than you can. I started my foundation to honor my daughter Paula, whose premature death broke my heart. She was young, but her soul was ancient. Her mantra was, when in doubt, ask yourself, what is the most generous thing to do in this case? This has become also the mantra of my life. The most generous thing to do is usually the best solution in most problems. Paula believed that you only have what you give. What is the point of having resources, knowledge, time, or anything else if you don't share it? In my case, what would be the point of having stories if I didn't offer them to others? I wonder who came up with the idea that greed is good. Greed is definitely not good for people or for the planet. Sharing and giving brings forth happiness, while accumulating produces fear and depression. The unhappiest person is the miser who has a bag of gold coins under the mattress and lives in terror of being robbed. I heard on the radio that most billionaires and their trust fund children are satiated with material stuff, but there's nothing that they really desire. They already have everything. They are not content. And who are the truly happy people in this world? The generous ones. We humans have a secret hormone of happiness that is triggered by an open hand. With very little, much can be done. The March of Dimes, inspired by President Frank Delano Roosevelt in 1938, ended the nightmare of polio in the US. People sent their dimes by mail. even during the worst time of the war, so many that the government was almost buried under a Mount Everest of envelopes. One dime at a time, the campaign raised millions of dollars for research and vaccination. Today, $33 buys a water pump for a poor farmer in Kenya, changing the future of his or her family and of the whole community. $10 buys a mosquito bed net to prevent malaria. In 2008, $10 at a time, donated by people like you and me, bought over 2 million bed nets in Africa, saving hundreds and thousands of lives. 27 cents per day can prevent a malnourished child from suffering severe hunger and probably dying of starvation in many countries. Here in the US, 1 in 6 children doesn't always have enough healthy food to eat. For a donation of $1 to Feed America, you can provide 6 meals. For $50, you can feed a hungry child over 800 meals. 27 cents seems to be a magic number. 27 cents is the cost of a delivery kit for childbirth that can prevent infection. It contains a plastic sheet to use as clean delivery surface, soap, clean string and razor blade for umbilical cord, and pictorial instructions to use each item. The success of Heifer International, for example, is astounding. Heifer gives animals to families in poor rural areas to provide wool, eggs, milk, meat, thus improving the nutritional and economic status with the understanding that the family must pass the animal's first female offspring to another family. This creates a ripple effect that improves the standard of living of neighbors and entire communities. Sarah is a lovely young woman who works in my foundation. She's a typical Berkeley girl. Long skirts, Birkenstocks, vegetarian, and she cries in Disney movies. She's married, has 2 children, and is pregnant, very pregnant. For the last 6 years, she has had a gumball machine filled with chicken scratch outside her chicken coop on the street. Yes, a chicken coop, only in Berkeley. Kids on their way to school stop to put 25 cents and feed the chickens, as well as the UPS man, random strangers, and walkers that have rerouted their usual routines so that Sarah's chickens are included. From the gumball machine, Sarah has purchased, through Heifer International, over 120 flocks of chickens, costing $20 each for families in Cambodia, South and Central America. The eggs are a source of protein for the families, and the additional income has allowed children to attend school. As you know, most foreign help does not come from our government, but from small private donations. Individuals like Adais Marves and Sarah make up 75% of giving in America, and most of it comes from the middle class and the poor, who in proportion to their income donate twice as more as the rich. On an average year, individual Americans give close to $230 billion to charity. This is a staggering amount, and it does not include Bill and Melinda Gates or